everyone. I want to introduce my amazing client, AJ here, who had a session with me. It is now August 19, 2022, and she had a session with me in December 2021. And she was starting to tell me all of the amazing changes she's had in her life since her session. And I asked her to please repeat it because I wasn't recording it because I want everyone to hear. But you got to start by telling me that you listened to it, the recording from the session many times, because I'm finding that is key to having huge changes in your life. So start there if you don't mind, and tell me all the amazing changes that have happened in your life since your session in December. So what is that, 8 months ago? 8 months ago, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
Okay, so the recording, I started listening to it almost like a meditation before I went to sleep. When I was just working, I would play it in the background. I would notice different things that would pop up. I was starting to remember parts of my session because I didn't really remember my session right away afterwards. As I kind of like acclimated to it and I woke up from it almost because I felt like I was in a dream for a little bit afterwards. I just different details started to pop up of what my thought process was while my higher self was talking. And so I actually, in my session, I mentioned that my wife in a past life was one of my guardians, one of my spirit guides, and I called her the woman in the blue dress. Well, the woman in the blue dress came to me a few times in my dream, appearing as something else, but I knew it was her, and she would say um, that, for example, the pastor and rancher that I was in a past life where she was my wife, that Wyatt, the name that I picked up in the session was his last name. Joe was his first name. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And then the next night I was listening to it again, and this time was different. In my session, I had said in order to get my book published, I needed to find an editor who would cut apart the story and rearrange the pieces. That's what I said. And I said that there were two names, A.M. Michelle was one of them, the second one, and I said she was very busy. Well, after the dream I had when I went to sleep listening to the session, I remembered that the name I was thinking was Amy Michelle. So the next day I was like, okay, let me just go through this. Let me Google it. So I put Amy Michelle editor. And sure enough, there was only one Amy Michelle who was an editor, who was also an author, and she worked for this editing agency that I reached out to. And we hit it off pretty quickly. But the thing I said in my session was that she is very busy. And sure enough, it didn't work out with Amy and Michelle because she was very busy and she couldn't take on my project. But they assigned me someone else who ended up being the perfect fit for my story. And, I cut my manuscript down like 20,000 words. I took out plot lines. I rearranged subplots. It's for the better. And now I could probably publish it as it is and be happy with it. But on a health level, and this is probably the most important one, was I really suffered with bad social anxiety and just anxiety in general, to the point where it was just getting worse over the years with school and work and moving. They put me on a PTSD medication that they get prescribed to war veterans, just because the nightmares were waking me up in the middle of the night and I wasn't getting any sleep and it was starting to affect me during the day. I was also on an anxiety medication that was really sedative and I it was really sedative and I didn't really like it too much. But after the session, when we talked about like releasing demons that were like I was harboring in my body and curses and spells that my family had put on me, I was able to kind of release that anxiety. So now I can go to the grocery store without freaking out. I can go to amusement parks where there's a lot of people. And before I couldn't do that, I am off both the anxiety medication and the nightmare medication. And I honestly can just go through my life not really caring what other people think about me or, you know, feeling like everyone's paying attention to me. I just don't care. And it's really liberating.
Yay! Oh, that's amazing. So your book is coming along really well. Your health is coming along well. What else? How many times do you think you probably listened to your session?
Oh my God. Well, in the first month alone, I probably listened to it like twice a week. And then playing it at bedtime, but that one's kind of like I would knock out probably about 10 or 20 minutes in. So I heard the first part of it many times, and the rest of it I heard it while I was like, I guess my subconscious was picking up on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, your subconscious, right?
it's relaxing. There's something like really relaxing about listening to this part of yourself that's with you all the time and just knows you better than even your conscious self does. And it really does like relax you and it kind of puts you to sleep. But I remember before that I always felt very haunted. I couldn't go to sleep without some sort of light in the room or a candle or some kind of like white noise playing or music because I was so afraid I was going to hear something talk in the night or I was going to see something that was going to wake me up. And then, sure enough, during our session, we found out that I had a wayward spirit that attached itself to me from my old house, which was very much everyone who went there always left with an experience that we couldn't explain. So it's safe to say that it was haunted. But after we released him and we found out that he kind of attached himself to me because he'd been trying to leave the house for a long time, and I moved to the city. Like once we released him, I didn't have that fear of hearing something like in my ear as I was trying to fall asleep or when I was starting to let my guard down when I was half asleep.
Nice. Nice. What else do you remember from the session that kind of stands out in your mind, and how does it impact you today? Anything else that you can think of?
So I struggle with my weight because when I started all these prescription medications for anxiety and everything, um, I gained a lot of weight because of it. And it's kind of hard because it's like you want to help your mental health, but at the same time, your body is changing because of it. And it might not be changes that you're particularly happy with. So I mentioned in the session that I had to start taking zinc and I think magnesium, which I did. And I started feeling better as far as energy. And also, I said to change my diet. I said to go pescatarian. And I did that and I actually like go back and forth between being pescatarian and being vegan, depending on my mood and everything. And I lost a lot of weight from it. I have a lot more energy. It might not be right for everyone, but it was right for me and my higher self knew that, obviously. But
Mhm.
the thing that stands out the most though is that I have bipolar disorder. And before our session, Tracy had gotten this book, which I'm hoping that she can bust out again. It's like the metaphysical health book. And
Metaphysical anatomy, yeah.
yes, I need to buy that for myself. But it said that bipolar is often the result of anger. And growing up, I was very angry as a kid, but I was taught to like internalize it and not make it everyone else's problem. So it just kind of stewed in me and I buried it down and everything. And I think that with like genetics and everything, it just kind of like manifested itself into this disorder that was wrecking my life for a minute. And then I found out through the past life regression that I had been a soldier who had died in in these trenches. And basically he was just angry all the time because he didn't want to be there. And I said that his last thoughts were about how much he hated the people ordering him to do stuff that would get him killed. And I said that in order to like help him to light white candles because it would help distinguish him as an actual person and not just another body on the battlefield. And I said, or my higher self said that I had already been doing that and that was making it better. And I think like just honoring these like past selves that I've been and being aware of them has like really helped, because they said they stay with us like advisors. And I really do feel like that. I draw a lot of my hobbies and my interests and a lot of my like core values from these people I don't necessarily remember, but they're things that have stuck with me since I was a kid. But as far as the bipolar disorder goes, I said that the soldier's anger was the dynamite and my life was like the spark. So all my
Mhm.
experiences, all my trauma, the things that made me angry was the spark to this dynamite that I had brought in with me from a past life. And I also said that I had already been doing a good job of avoiding that dynamite, of avoiding sparking that anger. But just having that in a recording that I could listen to and something that came from me was really validating. And it was honestly the best advice because it was coming from myself.
So how do you feel with your what's going on with the bipolar right now?
It's totally manageable. Since the hypnosis, and it's a combination. So like my medications are really stable right now. I've been on the same dose since for the last year and a half, and it's been a really good dose for me, but I do still struggle with episodes because even with good medication and therapy and coping skills, bipolar disorder, it's episodic. It comes up, but it might not necessarily bring you all the way down into the like bottom of a hole the way it would without medication. So like there are times where I get really lethargic and I don't have a lot of energy and I'm really sad and I start to get that black and white thinking, catastrophizing a little bit. But like it might be really subtle and it might almost feel like PMS or coincide with PMS. But since I started focusing on this idea that my bipolar disorder is a result of this like anger in my life, it's been a lot easier to contain. So whenever I'm angry, I'm kind of aware that like, wow, this anger actually has enough power to create illnesses within me. And I do my best to like validate it and move on from it, or, just kind of like acknowledge it, live with it for a minute and then let it go. But one thing I did say in the session was that, oh, I just lost it. What did I say? Ah, I lost it, Tracy. There was so much that went on. I had a
You're
point.
good. You're good. You're good. Again,
Hold on. Hold on, hold on.
here we go. Okay.
Okay.
You remembered
I
now.
rem I do remember now. So I was while I was under hypnosis, my higher self was saying that the bipolar disorder that I experience now is kind of the result of a lot of the trauma and anger and just unresolved resentment that I had towards my parents and the people who took or who were supposed to take care of me and everything. And it was basically, I said the bipolar disorder gives me something to treat. And that hit me really hard after when I listened to it because it made sense to me. It's my entire life. I had gotten good grades. I had stayed out of trouble. I had good friends. And whenever I got in trouble for things I didn't do, I just kind of bit my tongue and dealt with the punishment. And by the time that my bipolar really manifested when I was 19, I was kind of more on my own. I was a little bit more independent, but and so it kind of gave me room to breathe and be myself a little bit, but it also meant that I had to unpack all this baggage that I've been carrying with me my entire life. And my higher self basically said that the bipolar disorder was a way for me to treat the past. And because it was only until I was 19 that I really started taking care of myself, and not just on a surface level so that I didn't worry everyone or that no one had to worry about me. Um, yeah. And Yeah, a lot of it had to do with some this like resentment I had with my parents since I was younger, and I talked about how I needed boundaries in my session. Um, and a lot of the boundaries were because I felt guilty for existing. So I said that I felt like I was the problem and pretty much the cause of my parents' unhappiness, which after the session I shared with them, they were like, that's not true, but we understand why you feel that way because we didn't exactly do the best job of not making you feel that way. And so, it also opened up like a lot of good conversations with my family and my support systems, kind of like, okay, I didn't really say this, but my higher self said this. So I got to kind of
Right.
pin it like that a little bit. But I also talked about like with the depression and the anxiety, it was it was really hard to I said the world inside my head was rich enough, and it was colorful, but I didn't see the world outside my head as that colorful. And it was because I wasn't grateful that I was alive. And that made a lot of sense up until that point when I did the hypnosis, because I kind of felt like I was just trucking along. Like I was taking my medications as I was supposed to. I was doing everything as I was supposed to, but I wasn't necessarily grateful that I was still here living and breathing. I kind of felt like I was doing it out of obligation to, you know, like making sure that I'm here for my family and making sure I'm here for the people that depend on me, but I wasn't really here for myself. And yeah, just the hypnosis really helped me kind of focus back on myself and see like all these different layers that construct my consciousness, basically.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So you're really glad you did it, and you must be because you're back for session two. We're about ready to do your second hypnosis session, right?
Yes, I said in my session at the end, Tracy was like, is there anything else she needs to know? And I said, she got to do this again in 6 months. So I
Right.
reached out in 6 months, and here we are, 8 months, and we're ready to do this. So.
Yeah, and we were supposed to do it earlier, and I had COVID, so we couldn't do it earlier. But we got to reschedule, and now I actually have a voice. I didn't have a voice then, so it's good. Well, thank you for that. And if you had to tell anyone else, kind of on the fence about, and we have not pre-recorded this or pre-talked about this or pre-planned this, so this is totally off the cuff what we're doing here in this video. But if you had to give a message to anyone else thinking about doing this and they're kind of on the fence, should I do it? Is this even real? Is this going to change my life? Am I going to see real changes? What kind of advice would you have for them? First of all, should they do it? And secondly, what do you think would help them make it the most successful if they do a session like this?
To make it the most successful session is you can go in with some hesitance. You can go in not knowing what's going to happen, because I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was open to it. And I've actually been trying to convince my dad to do this because my dad has a lot of trauma from when he grew up. And he's the best man I know. He's the best father ever. But there's just a lot of stuff that he harbors in himself. And right now he's talking about how he feels like he sort of has an eating disorder. He just can't stop until everything is finished. Like he'll finish other people's stuff and everything. And I told him, do you think that maybe this stems from like some abandonment issues and not knowing where your next meal is going to come from? Because he was struggling when he was in his 20s and everything. And he said he thought, yeah, maybe. And I told him, well, maybe a higher self hypnosis is for you because the advice is coming from you, the experience is coming from you. If you remember it while it's happening, it's surreal because the moments I remember, my thought process, and as I was talking, it's just this like super clear understanding of what you need and what your conscious self wants. And really, there is no better person who knows you better than you. And
Oh, we're
Tracy,
losing your sound. We're losing your sound a little bit. I don't know.
oh, can you hear me now?
Crackling a little bit.
That's weird. You want to pause it?
There. No, it's good.
Okay.
Now we're good.
Yeah, so hopefully they get
And so you
edited
told him
around.
you told him he should do a higher self hypnosis session because no one knows him better than his higher self, right?
Yeah, and I even told that to my mom too, because she's definitely got a lot of trauma. She's gone through things that like people should never have gone through. And I told her that the way I felt afterwards in the month where I was kind of experiencing like the integration of all this new knowledge, all this new understanding and trying to like incorporate it into myself and everything. About I did it in December. By February, I mean, I was off 2 medications. I've suffered from anxiety since I was a kid. I remember not trying out for teams and clubs and stuff because I was just so scared and so anxious. And it only got worse throughout middle school and high school and college. And then here I am as an adult, and I can't even go to the grocery store without blasting music and like not making eye contact with everyone. I can't um, talk to people unless I'm putting on a persona at my job, which is like a service job. So it was really pushing me out of my comfort zone, but it was draining me. And now I don't get drained from social interactions. I actually like going out, walking around. And I did say in my higher self hypnosis that I needed to stop being so lazy. And when I get the urge to go to a park, or the beach and just be out in nature, which is like one of the healing things I'm supposed to do, that I need
Mm-hmm.
to listen to it and do it. And I do it now, and I feel so much better. You know, I just grab a book and I go to the park and I just like lay down on the grass on a sunny day. Or if it's a little foggy out, I like to go to the beach because all the animals come out and everything. So it's just, it's like, it's helped me change my habits, definitely. And why wouldn't you try this if you're unhappy with the way your habits and routines are? If nothing else is working, this is guaranteed to make a difference because everything is coming from you. Tracy just guides you through it and asks you the questions, but especially if you're chatty like me during these higher self hypnosis sessions, like you will offer up a lot of information that will help
Yeah. And so what do you think the key was, though, for your success? Do you think it was listening to the session over and over and really, really incorporating it and ingraining it into you? Or what do you think some of the keys were for it being so successful for you?
It was definitely listening to the information and knowing that it came from me and just, over and over. I mean, the first month I would listen to it and there were parts where I would start tearing up. And I'm listening to it in my headphones at work and everything. So it's like I'd have to like pause and be like, "Oh, okay." But there was a lot of stuff and especially in my past life. I learned a lot from my past lives, not just the soldier who helped contribute to the basically like um what would it be? It's almost like a karmic debt to myself.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, like I had to resolve a lot of what he went through, and there were a lot of parallels between what he went through and what I was going through in this life. Um, but there was another past life where I basically got everything I wanted. I was a rancher who turned into a pastor. I loved to write. I loved to read. I loved my community. I said things like we didn't believe in a conventional like God-fearing way. We believed in a God that like loved all of us no matter what. There were like no constraints. And it's just crazy to me because that's the way my faith works now. And I even said in my session that I draw a lot of my faith from that life. And
Mm.
the spirit guide that was with me, um, the woman in the blue dress, she was hugely influential in that life. Like, I didn't want to come back down to earth and reincarnate again. I wanted to stay with her, but she was done with her cycles, and so she stayed behind. But I said that I needed to do this in order to understand why I was sad, but I wasn't lonely. So I was sad because I felt like I was missing someone, but I never felt like I was lonely. And people didn't understand like why I could be okay with my own company and why I didn't seek out, all these romantic relationships like some of my friends and, things that people are really prioritizing. And it was because I had such a rich company of spiritual ancestors with me and twin flames. And it's just like basically I was okay with my own company, but there was still this sense of loss. And now that I know where that sense of loss is coming from, I kind of don't feel that anymore. I don't feel these like pangs of sadness that used to contribute to my depression. So it's just, yeah, it's really life changing. There was a lot of stuff that was going on. And then in these sessions, you can target so many things. So we targeted emotional stuff, we targeted past life regression, but we also did like physical ailments and stuff. So I talked about how I was on these medications, and one of the medications was making me sick. And I didn't realize because I thought that was a regular side effect of it. But then I met with my doctor and I told him, is it possible that this might be the wrong medication for me or that I'm taking too much? And sure enough, he was like, okay, let's have an honest discussion about what your symptoms are. Aside from you think that like this is supposed to be really good for you, what are your symptoms? And I told him, and he goes, you are taking too much. And like in my higher self hypnosis, where I said I needed to take half the dose, he halved my dose. So there's just a lot of coincidences that happened. And like, I'm so excited to see what happens this time around.
So your higher self told you that you should be taking half the dose of a particular medicine, and then your doctor confirmed it after the session?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. And then you mentioned a couple of vitamins your higher self told you to take. Did you say magnesium and something else?
Zinc, yes. Oh, I
Zinc and
also said I
magnesium.
needed to take vitamin D more, and I said I was really bad at taking it. Well,
Right.
after I kind of, I snapped out of it and I processed everything, I realized that I had gone a week without taking it. I was like, I actually am really bad at taking vitamin D. I don't take it regularly, which is funny because I have a pill container, but I just forget to put it in the pill container. So I've been trying to take that more, and also just going outside a little bit more to go hang out in the parks and stuff has helped.
Yeah. So, and everybody would get different advice, but you got to hear about three specific ones that your body needed. So that was really awesome too. So it's wonderful to hear. Like I'm so excited for you because I get to hear all these sessions, and some people don't put the work into it afterwards. So I say this is like, and hire somebody else's higher self confirmed. This is like going to a session with a personal trainer, and you're going to have another session with a personal trainer, your higher self, right? At the spiritual gym. And so at the spiritual gym, you're going to get a workout plan. I'm going to be typing it down so you have a record of it, recording it. But then it's up to you to go to the gym every day, right? To get the results, because you can go have one session with a personal trainer, and you're not going to walk out with a six-pack ab in physical. So why would we think that we're going to do that in the spiritual, right? That we're going to just have one session that's going to be a magic pill, and we're going to be spiritually enlightened and have all this healing and do all this stuff without reinforcing it and putting our faith behind it and really ingesting it and making it a part of us and integrating it, right? Which is, it sounds like that's what you did. And that's what people really need to know and do with these sessions if they want the real results. That's what I think. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, but it's almost like, why wouldn't you listen to the advice that, to this guideline that your higher self is giving you? This is the best advice I've ever had tailored specifically to me. Like,
Right.
I worked on like what took me 10 years in therapy. I basically sped up the process doing this because I was getting the information straight from myself. I was getting the sources of all these traumas. And I know I talked a lot about past lives, but in the session, I talked a lot about the traumas that existed in this current life that I am living. And maybe it was influenced by my past lives, but we mostly the stuff I worked on after the session was done was dealing with a lot of the resentment I held towards people in this life. And it would be a waste if you were to do this experience and be scared of the information that you're getting and not follow through with it. Like, you have to trust that this is coming from yourself, and there's no one who knows you better than yourself. There's no one who knows what is best for you better than yourself. Like,
Right.
because we're constantly taking in all this information. We're constantly taking in, knowledge from other people, communication, and also just spiritual communication with your intuition. And doing this process kind of just melds everything together and gives you a pretty straightforward question answer guideline on like how to live your best self afterwards.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm so excited. I'm really excited to do your second session now. I can't wait to see what's going to come up in this one, because then you'll have even more growth, especially if you take it like you did with the first one and listen to it, integrate those things, put the faith behind it, because we do get to create our own reality, right? Your higher self was telling you, let's create it, and this is what it looks like. You just got to go to the creation gym, right? Every day, do your workout, and this is what we'll create. We'll create all these things. So how amazing was that? So I'm looking forward to doing the second one. Anything else, or you're
You know,
glad you did it, and you tell
I'm glad I
anyone else?
I'm glad I did it. And then something I will just note to whoever's listening and thinking about this, when I first went in, I dealt with the issues that were most present to me, which was my anxiety, my depression, this feeling of not being involved in the world around me and just kind of going through the motions, and just all this emotional trauma that I had been carrying with me since I was a kid. And everything just stacking up on top of it as I got older and kept experiencing, positive things, but a lot of the negative things tend to stick with you a little bit a little bit harsher. So, but once I was done with the hypnosis, I kind of felt like I had resolved a lot of issues. I mean, my anxiety is pretty much gone. My depressive episodes aren't as bad. And when they are bad, they're manageable because I have learned wisdom that like helps me through these episodes now. In addition to like my right medication and my support systems and professional support systems. So this time around, now that my emotional baggage is pretty much cured, um, I'm sure Tracy can see on my questions list that I picked out that we're going to be focusing more on my physical body. So now that I'm out and about and I have the energy to take care of myself that I didn't have before with my lack of sleep and my negative emotions and everything, I'm curious to see like what kind of stuff I can fix from the inside out this time.
Nice, nice. And lucky for you, and I'm talking through my speaker here. Lucky for you, I have been led and guided by my spirit team to do a lot more what they have called psychic surgery when dealing with physical issues. So you're going to get to experience a lot of that in the session today. So this should be a really good session for sure.
Yes, there we go.
Yes, so perfect timing to come back. So thank you so much for giving this. And again, none of this, we had not scripted any of this or even talked about this before. So I'm really excited that this was a genuine kind of review of what happened in the last 8 months since your last session, and all the incredible changes that you had. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Of course. And I just for anyone listening, when Tracy came on to the recording, or not onto the recording, but onto the video, I immediately just launched into how my life had changed. And she was like, hold on, we got to record this. So that's what happened in the beginning. Yeah. So I mentioned that like afterwards, I got my energy back because I was finally sleeping without all these prescription drugs. And I was feeling well rested, and I didn't feel emotionally drained from like interactions with people at work and just on the day to day. So I was feeling really good, and I had all this energy that me and my friend in January were like, okay, for the new year, let's just do the gym thing. And I've never been a gym person ever in my life. I've never liked working out. And honestly, I still kind of don't, but I have the energy to pull myself through it. So we subscribed to the gym for the year. It's August now. So since January, I've lost 30 pounds. I've been doing personal training once a week, and then I go to the gym twice or three times by myself with my friend. And yeah, it's really helped me out. And I'm hoping that I can like do something in this session to kind of boost my results a little bit because I kind of hit a plateau. But yeah, and I think that the eating a different diet, because I did say in my session that I needed to go pescatarian. So like going pescatarian and just being more conscious of what I eat instead of just being like, oh, I'll eat whatever. So now I have to think about like, oh, does that have meat in it? Does it have fish in it? It's just made me more aware of what I'm putting in my body. And I think all that stuff has just helped out in general.
Yay! Everyone loves to hear about weight loss.
Every, it's a big deal, and it really does make you feel a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Another awesome result from the session.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify, I got excited.
Yeah. You just launched right into telling me all these changes. Yeah. And I thought people got to hear this. This is amazing, right? And it's not going to happen to everyone. I will say that. This is not going to happen to everyone if you don't go to the spiritual gym. Because I have people who do this session, they file it away, never listen to it again, don't open their notes ever again, and they don't. I mean, they have some changes because they report back to me that they do, but they're not like this. They're not like this. They're not like someone who did the work before, because I give you homework before, which is meditating, right? And really getting in touch with quieting your ego voice. You can hear from your higher self when you get to a session. But not only that, but then continuing to go to the gym, because I tell people this, and it's not something anyone really wants to hear, but it's just like anything. The spiritual journey is not for the lazy. If you want real results, you have to put in the work, just like you can't sit on the sofa and think you're going to walk out of your living room with six-pack abs. You have to go to the gym. And it's literally no different than this. So it's not for the lazy. It's for the people who put in the work, but they get incredible results that will change you for the rest of your life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so excited
Awesome.
for the next one. Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. Okay. Thank you so much. And I will end the recording here.